Hello friends, Jennifer Pearson here, Thistle Gypsy, with another video response. This time not a tarot tag, but an oracle tag. And it is by Imogen Walters, a lovely young lady. Check out her channel. And it's hashtag oracleobsessed, and she has 14 questions here. So I really appreciate Imogen doing this because there's been a lot of tarot things going around, and that's a lot of fun. But I really love oracle decks, and I was thinking, well, what about oracle decks? And yes, so thank you, Imogen, for starting this tag, for doing the oracle lovers a favor by starting this tag so that we didn't have to come up with one. Okay, so let's dive in. What was your very first oracle deck? Now, I'm going to share something that probably technically isn't an oracle deck. These are the old trusty, I think they even still make these, angel cards. Angel cards. They've got a little angel on them. So, yes, eons ago, I got the... Oh, they're flipping over. The angel cards. And they've been in this thing all those eons. So what the heck? Let's smear them around. Let's smear them around. And for old time's sake, let's pick a couple. Oh, love it. Peace. Peace. You guys probably are not going to be able to read these very. Inspiration. Yes. Let's see, what else? How about this one? Creativity. Oh my Lord. So, hugely positive. And that's usually what I would do. And then I have to get them back in some semblance of order. The lovely thing about these little tiny cards is that you can do this. You can spread them out and pick them, which would be my favorite way to do any kind of reading just about any time. But you can't spread and mash the cards around so easily all the time. The bigger they are, the less likely it is that you can use that form. Well, maybe they do go like that. There we go. Peace, and this is what I would do. I would just lay them in there. Peace, inspiration, creativity. Magnificent. Thank you, angel cards. I regret that it has probably been years since I have pulled these out. I keep them in a drawer next to my bed. Oh, I'll leave you open. I'll put my whale lid over here somewhere, and we'll let these grace our tarot tag, or our oracle tag here, our video response. Okay. But since, many people might not consider that an oracle deck, really, I would say this is my first. The medicine cards, which are the animals, is my first oracle deck, and I kept it. I really, until about 2 years ago, I had only one tarot deck, which I eventually let go, and then I had this. For a long time was my only oracle deck. I had this and this. Perfectly happy working with these things. It was more a matter of, I still use the guidebook with this, even though, I know that porcupine is innocence and playfulness, etc., etc. I still return to the guidebook to get all of the clues, and the guidebook can be a little bit weird. As far as I'm concerned, it can be a little bit weird. But, I don't feel like I could use this for client readings. I really don't. For one thing, I'm so close to it at this point. It's my deck. So I use it for personal readings. I don't use it for client readings. Though I should maybe reconsider, not necessarily this deck, maybe getting another. I know that she created another one that had more cards to it in recent years. I was happy to see that. There are definitely some animals that struck me as missing. But I don't use this very much. I haven't used it recently, and I don't know that I will very much anymore because I've gotten involved in shamanism. So what I end up doing now is kind of going into that middle space that shamans go into, and I ask who wants to help me with this, and I get a spirit animal come forward. If anybody has any questions about that, feel free to ask me. So yes, this is the next one. So what's your current favorite deck? Current favorite deck. I would say current favorite deck to use for myself is going to be the Shaman's Oracle. And again, this is one that, I have to rely so much on the guidebook because to me the images are not particularly intuitive, and nor are the keywords necessarily all that intuitive. Somewhat Ancestor of Protection, that makes some sense, but reading from the guidebook makes a difference. Maybe after reading with this for several years, I'll just know the meanings of the cards by looking at them. I don't know. I'm thinking probably not. But what I find, why I'm pulling this as my favorite deck to use personally, is because when I have something perplexing and I come to this deck, it pretty much nails it. And it doesn't necessarily give me things I want to hear. It gives me, I won't say the truth, it gives me a truth, a critical truth of the situation that I need to address. And, so they end up being things that rattle around in my head for a while, for months sometimes. I'm still wrestling with their Hunter of Abundance and exactly what it's trying to get across. So I feel like I'm getting messages that are critical to my understanding as I go through this. But you can see some of these, yes, that's a bull. I suppose you could see that as a bridge. But what the heck is that? Are they playing ball? Racquetball? Stone Age balloons? I don't know. They're calling that the Dancer of Friendship. Anyway, there you go. And what is that? So that's the images. I love the images. Part of me loves the images, and part of me is like, all right, well, the images don't quite work all that well. But still, it's giving me very, very valuable lessons. I just don't see a good way to use it in client readings, really. But it's a great deck for personal insights. All right. And so I'm going to add kind of another, well, this will be it's kind of answer to the next one. What's your most used deck? My most used deck, I would say, even though I haven't used it much recently, is the Enchanted Map Oracle cards. And I say it's my most used, not because I use it so much for myself. In fact, I haven't for a while, but I use it. I can use it for client readings. And one of the things, and this gets into another question as well, I can read it intuitively. I don't need the guidebook. Sometimes I don't even like what the guidebook says, but I can read it intuitively. I can read it intuitively in spreads. So this deck really speaks to me. Now, I did read Colette Baron Reed's book, and surely I still have it. Yes, it's just called The Map. Okay. I was just looking for it on my shelf, The Map. And I did read it, and it did give me some insight into some of the cards, that I could, that some of it deepened it, some of it not. But anyway, I can use this for a 9-card spread. I can use it for almost any spread, and I can, the keywords are usually pretty, ride the wave. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. Stuck in the mud, yeah, stuck in the mud, So you can use the keywords are great. They're fine to have, but just looking at the image and getting a feel from the image, and that's what I get. I tend to get like feelings and insights just from looking at the image in a context, within the context of the reading, and what it would mean for whoever I'm reading for, whether it's one of my general zodiac sign readings or a client reading. So yes, I really appreciate this, and I've kind of been looking for more decks that do that for me, that function intuitively, where I really don't need the guidebook, and to be honest, they're kind of hard to find. And I feel like that deck too can be used for a range of situations, because it does have positive and negative cards, which is not true of all oracle decks by any means. Alright, what's your least used deck? Well, I have some new ones that are least used, but I'm not going to include them because they're new. So to me that's not fair. Of ones I've had for a while, although I use the bird cards, and I like the bird cards, and I feel like they give some really interesting insights. Again, I haven't quite started using them in other readings outside of my own personal decision to pull a card from them. When I was doing readings, live readings in conjunction with Carrie Ann Parkhouse, I would use the bird cards, but I haven't used them a lot since. But I have to say, I've let go of some oracle decks recently, or traded them, and this is one that I looked at. In fact, what I did was, it was like a test. It's like, okay, you're going to give me a message here, and this is going to decide whether I keep you or not. I was leaning toward keeping it anyway, and it did give me a really accurate message, and so it's like, all right, okay, bird cards, we're keeping you. I think these cards, I could explore these cards a little bit more. Everything's a matter of time. That's probably my least used. I've kind of been on you could call it a tarot card spree. I've been using my tarot decks a lot recently, and only just in the past few days, in fact, I've broken away from that. In my last couple of readings on my channel for May, my May love and my May career, I broke out the oracle decks and had a good time with my oracle decks, so that made me happy. All right, number 5. How did you learn to read oracle cards? Oh, I don't know. You just, if this was, these are very direct. Okay, peace, inspiration, creativity. Great. These, I would use the book. I would just look at the book. And some of them, it's that. It's getting to know the cards. But like with the enchanted map, I can just look at those pictures, and I can just start talking about those pictures. They speak to me, and they allow me to speak through them, and all of that kind of stuff. So I would say, you look and you just start talking. I can't do that with this. I have to know something about the weasel, or it's not going to, it's not going to do anything for me. And we're going to get to the difference between tarot and oracle cards in a later question here, but I think one of them is that tarot gives you situations and handholds so that you can speak from it, whereas a lot of oracle decks don't. All right. So 6. What do you use oracle cards for? Well, I have to say this, that a lot of them I do not use for full readings. I will the Enchanted Map. In the past, I've used the Vintage Wisdom deck. In my Chariot spread for love, I would use the Vintage Wisdom, and people responded well to that when I would do that. But for the most part, I use them if there's something that's perplexing me, something about life that's perplexing me. And it doesn't really warrant a full reading necessarily. And I want feedback from more than one perspective, so I don't want to use a tarot deck. So I will often, now that I have an embarrassment of riches here with a variety of oracle decks, is I will pull more than one card, or I'll pull one card from more than one deck, and just, to me, it's like getting different perspectives on a situation. Yeah. And I guess that's it. And, you know, they are very nice to use with for added information in tarot reading, or just a full reading, I guess I would say, whether you're using tarot or oracle to pull yet another oracle card. I've been collecting some. I'm looking for some decks that serve the purpose of helping to bolster people. I mean, sometimes you get some pretty heavy messages in a tarot card reading or a card reading of any kind. It's pretty much saying, okay, you're going to be in for some, you're going to be in for a rocky road. And so I would like to find a deck that works really well for me, that kind of fortifies a person, that reminds them of their inner resources to get through whatever the situation is that's being presented. You know, kind of what they can rely on or call on within themselves. So I'm kind of looking for that kind of deck, and I haven't come up with one in particular. I'm liking a lot of the decks I'm finding, but I don't know. I'm working on my oracle deck collection right now and how I'm going to use them. I do love to use them, and I miss this, and I wasn't thinking that I would have this problem when I started doing this, so I'm going to ramble for a minute here. I used to do new moon and full moon mandalas, and that was a great opportunity to use oracle cards. Loved it. I would usually use oracle cards for that. And then I decided to do weekly moon readings, and I would assign, with those mandalas, there was no assigned positions, but with the weekly things, I was assigning them positions, and it just really didn't work with the oracle cards, to use the oracle cards so much. And then I got one of the really bad colds going around here in the U.S. that, was in my lungs forever and ever and ever. And I had to drop those moon readings, and was barely getting out all of the other steady things that I do. And it got me rethinking. So I might go back to my moon mandalas, or mandalas just for the sake of mandalas. Just, who knows. I also think that oracle cards can be great just for, a daily draw. A daily draw. Let's pull one. There we go. Nourish yourself. That's what I'm looking for. Nourish. I know that I have my I have my webcam reversed, mirror image, so you can't read it so well, but it says Nourish Yourself. So that's, like I said, little bunnies nourishing themselves for the journey. So I think that that's a great reminder, you know, just kind of a daily reminder of our higher emotions, whatever, what's really important, that kind of thing. I think oracle decks are good for that too. 7. How do you read the cards, book or intuitive? Well, I kind of have explained that in some cases already. Sometimes I use the book, sometimes it's intuitive. In many ways, the more familiar I am with a deck, the more intuitive I can be with it. Or perhaps the more I know about the subject of the deck, the more intuitive I could be with it. 8. Do you use spreads with oracles? And again, I sort of mentioned that when I was talking about the enchanted map. Yes, I use that. In spreads, I would not use something like the bird cards that I brought out. I would not use those in a spread. Certainly I've used these in a spread. And the reason I wouldn't use the bird cards or the other deck I just had out that had Nourish Yourself, well, no, that one, even so. The Crazy Sexy Love Notes, which is what I had out a minute ago, when it's all affirmative, happy messages, I don't think it's giving you kind of genuine information unless you had a spread that was like work, home, spouse, children, whatever, and so that you had maybe a positive way of looking at each of those things, you know. So you'd have to think about it in a different way. I think if you've got all positive messages, then you have to, although I'm not sure, stop comparing, okay, then I think you have to think about the spread in a different way than a usual tarot spread, which is usually open to both positive and negative possibilities. Actually, here's another deck that I will, and this is very close to, this has a system and it's very close to the tarot system, but it does call itself an oracle for the ways that it deviates. But this is certainly one that you can use in spreads, because again, it does have, I think it doesn't have court cards, but it has the 4-element system sort of a thing to it. I've forgotten what I was doing. Do you use spreads with oracle cards? Yes, but some of them, like the bird cards, because I'm not very familiar with them, I couldn't do a spread with them, because I could do a spread, I suppose, for myself, but I couldn't do it for clients because it would take forever. Me going to the guidebook, digesting what the guidebook said, and everything. I think it's a little obstructive that way. So you have to really think about the deck that you're using if you're going to use a spread with oracles. Alright, 9. Do you mix oracle cards with tarot cards or runes? Yeah, well, I don't do runes, but yes, tarot cards all the time. Sure, no problem. You know, I just did that in some of my things. Again, when I do mandalas, I'll do it. If my 3-card readings for the relationship and career, one of them I used oracle decks for all of it, I think, and the other one of them was the tarot. So it's like, you know, I just have no problem with that. Yeah. 10. In your opinion, what makes for a great oracle deck? Oh my gosh. I have learned about myself that I need an oracle deck to be at least I'm going to say at least 36 cards. I would even lean towards 50 or so. 48, 50 would make me much more comfortable. To me, some of the decks that are only like 36 cards, or I think I just said 36, didn't I? Or 30 cards, or they just don't offer enough range of the human experience. To me, those decks have not given enough thought to what they're doing and to the varieties of human emotions, situations and stuff. And it's like, you know, some of them tend to survive on the beautiful art. And, you know, I'm a sucker for beautiful art just like everybody else. But that is not the meat of an oracle card. But I'll show you one that suckered me. I'll show you one that suckered me and made me totally, maybe say, all right, in the future, and I don't know how many cards this is, and I like it, I'm keeping it, but I altered it also, so I don't have a lot of choice but to keep it. How many? Oh, it doesn't even say. This one, I'm sure there was another one that I got where it's like, you know, it's not enough meat here for me. There's nowhere here where it's going to tell me how many cards are actually in the deck. Yeah, 32 or 33. And you know, look at the beautiful cards, and it's got some horizontal, and I kind of like that. It'd be cool to have like a whole horizontal deck, you know, but I was just very taken, and I think I was looking for a feminine kind of deck, and I like the concept behind this deck and everything. But I don't know. I felt like I needed more cards, and somehow a greater range. So, yep, there's one that suckered me, and I'm sure there will be more. In fact, I don't resist it particularly, being suckered by the art. But I do look at, all right, I see this beautiful art. I ask myself the question, it's good. I say this, it would be beautiful to have on my wall, this beautiful art. It would be beautiful to have on my wall. Is it going to help me read a card? You know, that's the big question. Again, I'm going back to the enchanted map because it has kind of situations. This a little less so, but this is a situation. I can read the situation. This to me is actually an ecological situation. This is a situation. This is a person, but he's doing something. All right? This is actually a situation. When it's more difficult when they're all faces or largely faces. It can be more difficult. And I can think of exceptions to that. Definitely. You know, Vintage Wisdom deck is pretty much, there's a situation, but that's a situation too. But, that's not very much of a situation, and that's not. And I think they call this is a situation. They call these facey cards, So some of them do. Maybe it's because I'm so familiar with these cards and I've used them so much that I've kind of milked everything that's going on. They have their own associations for me. But I could see people having difficulty connecting to these cards. Some people. I don't especially have. Although there are some that are very similar. But anyway. So it has to have range. And it's hard to know that before you get it. I have to nowadays I have to ask myself that question. Now that I've fallen into the beautiful image trap, I have to ask myself the question, can I read that? You know, do the images offer me handholds or not? So these are questions depending on the deck. On the other hand, so in some ways it depends on what you're getting them for. Some of them, like these surrender cards I just got, I like the concept of these cards, the power of surrender cards. And I don't even care about this right here, surrender unhealthy relationships. So that, in a sense, I could almost cut all of this off and just take this. But of course, and then it would be kind of like these cards here. All right? I really don't need all the rest of this. I just need this, surrender unhealthy relationships. It's a message itself. It requires no interpretation. Surrender your fear of change. So it kind of depends. I really prefer reading an image, because when you read an image, it can hold a lot of different messages in different situations. However, I believe that there is a place for these kinds of cards that give you some kind of direct message that requires no interpretation whatsoever. So there you go. So, yes, if you're wanting to read, like use it in a spread, read it without the guidebook, you have to ask yourself, beyond the pretty picture, is the picture readable by you without a guidebook? So what are you going to use it for? Or are you happy with just having something that gives you a direct message and you really don't care about the picture? So I guess sometimes they're message oriented and sometimes they're image oriented, and you have to make a decision. Other than that, for me, it just has to have some range. It has to have some range. I was a little bit worried about this. Nature's Whispers. I love her art. Yes. Sucker, sucker, sucker here. And as I was going through this, I was thinking, oh no, so many of these images, there's one, are the same or similar. There's one that's similar to that one, although there's 3 women here, and that's a man and a woman. And they don't have that much to do with what is said down here. So I just did a review and walkthrough of this, but you know, this is kind of a lot like that, which is, you know, sort of like that, even though it's toward the moon, it's kind of like that, you know. But I decided that what I was going to do was I was going to detach these, use them similar to this, or put them in a little bag, and I could use it when I use this deck. So I'm going to take this off, and I'm just going to read these images intuitively. And I'm going to give that a try and see what happens. So, or, you know, there is a guidebook with this too. I could rely on the guidebook, but I don't think I will. I think I'm gonna dive in. As I said before, the Fool is one of my main tarot cards. I will dive in. I will step off the cliff with Nature's Whispers. Let's see, what's the next question after rambling and not really coming down with anything solid there for great oracle decks? Okay, 11. What do you feel are the differences between tarot and oracle cards? Alright, I have given this some thought because, and not because of this question, over months, because I really like oracle cards, but at least some oracle cards, okay? Oracle cards that are like the enchanted map, at least for reading for others, but also for reading for me, that give you some scenes and situations. A lot of oracle cards do, like what I just showed you, whether it's Nature Whispers or the Power of Surrender cards, and they just give you a keyword that is an emotion, or they give you a statement that is usually emotional. It's not about a situation. And you know, the Vintage Wisdom Oracle falls into that category as well. It gives you words like trust, okay, love, protection, all right? That is not a situation. In the tarot, at least the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot, you are given situations, with some exceptions like the cups and stuff like that, or not the cups, the aces. All right, so here's the Hanged Man. And, you know, you can say rest, you can say looking at things from a different perspective, but if all you had was the Hanged Man, or if all you had was a different perspective, and some people look at it as sacrifice, you know, so this has a broad range of meaning. Even the court cards, if you look at him, he's standing there. There are fields here in the background. He has something. And if you look at these as seeds, he's looking for a place to plant his seed. This is a situation. With most oracle cards, you are not looking at a situation. You're not, so you don't, essentially you don't know the situation that the person is involved in, and you don't have anywhere near the range of interpretations of a card. You know, you could say that this is well, let me find the 7. You can say that you know, is this you? Is this you? You know, there's more than one way of looking at it. The 7 of Swords is another one where I see some what I will call clones of the Rider-Waite-Smith system depicting the 7 of Swords as only a thief, as in other words, like somebody climbing out of a window. To me, when you do that, you don't show what's left behind. You don't show kind of that funny expression on his face, like he's getting away with something, haha. You know, there's just a lot that you leave behind when you don't show the full scene that's here, the full situation. A camp, the colorful things. It could be war, it could be a festival. You know, you actually don't know quite what the situation is here. But that's it. Situation. Number of cards is another difference between tarot and oracle. Oracle cards usually don't have nearly as many cards. The element system is something that most oracle cards don't have anything to do with. Sometimes they create a structure themselves and sometimes not. I would say usually not. So, yes, you end up without structure. The lack of structure doesn't bother me. I think that the existence of structure in the tarot adds quite a bit to a reading, which is why I think it's good to use for client readings, because you can give that added perspective. 11. What do you feel? Oh no, 12. Do you have any super unusual or unique decks? No. 13. What's your current deck crush? And that was intended to be like something that's out there that you're waiting for, that you're super excited for. And I would say I don't have one. 14. I have a wish list that's 75 decks. you know. So, but I don't have any in particular that I'm terribly, you know, on edge, excited about seeing. 14. If you could only have one deck, if you could keep only one of your oracle decks. Well, like I said, there's the old trusty there, but my old trusty, again, you know, I've moved on to a different way of accessing animal energies. And so the one I think I would keep is ensconced here, and I have not been using it much. Maybe I should have pulled it out instead of the bird cards in terms of the oracle deck that I have not been using. And that is the fairies. I don't know. I feel like I have a relationship with the fairies, so how could I abandon them? How could I abandon the fairies? And I confess, yes, I have not had them out much. One thing that has been kind of depressing to me is that I started to use these for YouTube readings, and these images, not this one, okay, that's your classic Tinkerbell looking kind of fairy. And even this, people would have usually no problem with. Or this. I call that the boobs, butts, and bellies card. But images like this put people off. And even just simple little, to me that's cute, you know, that it puts people off. So there are just too many cards that some people find creepy. I don't think of this as a dark deck. I mean, it does have dark cards, but I don't think of it as a dark deck. But people just reacted when I started to use this. People reacted negatively, so that made me sad. But so be it. So be it. And since I don't, at this point, do a lot of readings for myself, or if I do, they're kind of yes-no to kind of give me some guidance, because I suffer from idea proliferation. So I don't use these very much. But maybe I will after I get off of this. I could do... these do have a system, actually. They have... although it's tricksy. I've done a review of this deck talking about the tricksiness of the people who constructed it. But it does have a system, and so you can use that system. And what I do is I have a spread that is, so I do use this for spreads, but pretty much only this one spread. And that is the essence, which is similar to these cards. These are, they call them the singers. I think of them as radiances. But anyway, so you can either separate these out and shuffle and only put that, but I just shuffle them and put whatever. So you have the essence of the situation. You have over here, you have a challenger. There's Luathus the Wild. Whoosh. And I think that these cards are relatively easy for me to remember because I can, the character. I'll say List of the Shadows. This is for your helper. So this is the essence, the challenger, what's challenging you, your helper. I'll use Las Guna as your fairy guide, and then up here is what rules you. We'll put himself up there. So what we would call the lords or ladies, you know, the she of the fae would go here. Or this is what rules you. This is the essence, the challenger, the guide, what moves you forward, and this is a helper, one of your hidden helpers. So yeah, I would keep my fairy deck. I feel very connected to this particular group of fairy decks. Actually, another reason I would keep it is the fact that other people, my sister in particular, have also felt very connected to it. And so you could call it a common language between us. It's a common language. Anyway, so there you go. I think I've made it to the end. Thanks so much for stopping by, listening, liking, sharing, and subscribing. And again, this was I'll say an oracle tag, a card reader's tag by Imogen Walters, hashtag oracleobsessed. So if you also have oracle decks, feel free to join right in. Take care. Bye-bye.